Well, happy Sunday morning, everybody. Welcome to the program. I have double tracks playing there. Not sure where the second track was coming from, but we're here now. So, welcome this morning. I hope your Sunday morning is going well for you. Hey, to everybody that's starting to gather over in the chat room. Scott Allen, I see you there. Howdy, right back to you. And Kristen Holmes, good to see you. Okay, I've got something playing back here and I'm not sure where that playback is coming from. Hold on, because I'm hearing double this morning. I don't know where that's playing from. So if you hear that, it must be. Oh, I see where it is. It's over on the Instagram. I have the sound up on the Instagram channel. If you're over on the Instagram channel, welcome. And I had to shut the sound off for my computer for that. Everett Smith, welcome to you. Happy that you're here this morning. And who else we got? JP. 29 minutes and some odd seconds, he says. I'm not sure what that's all about. Is that how much time you have this morning to make it in here and join us? Coffee. I hope you have your coffee this morning. By the way, this is Scotty Roberts. If you haven't figured that out yet, this is my show. This is not the Intrepid radio program. That happens Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Well, as a going concern, it didn't happen at all this last week. It was a weird, busy week, and something had to get cut, and this show was it. So, I don't know, maybe once I start making my living off of this show, it won't get cut when I get really busy. So, there you go. There's just that hint, hint, nudge, nudge. And by the way, if you want to support this show, you can click on the join button down below, or you can go over to my Patreon, patreon.com/Scotty Roberts. I feel like I'm slurring this morning. I don't know why. And so that's all we'll say about that. And again, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, we'll see how this week goes. I think I've got some heavy duty stuff cleared out of the way, which won't text me from 4 a.m. till midnight every day. So here we are. Sunday mornings, if you're not familiar with it, is a casual, laid back version of the Intrepid radio program meant for Sunday mornings. And it's time for you to get your coffee, put your conversational cap on. It's one of these things we do on Sunday where we can just kind of kick back and talk about what's going on. I got some things to talk about today as well. So we might do a couple of tarot readings later on in the program today. At least that's so I build that over on my TikTok. So if you're joining us from TikTok this morning, come on over, and if you've come on over, we'll probably get to some of that. So let's see. That was the countdown at that point. I'm not sure. 29 minutes? What, did I put the wrong time up for this morning? Does it say that I don't come on till 9:30 this morning? That's interesting, huh? It was playing over on my YouTube, though. Don't know what, you got me lost. I got lost with a client last night. I hope this isn't some kind of predecessor. No, not predecessor. That's not the word. A kind of a pre losing my mind moment last night. I got really confused. I've been doing 2 projects for him that involved logo designs and stuff we've done for years working on his sites. Then I had a new logo design project yesterday for a client, and I got all 3 of those done. Then the one client called me back and asked me to, hey, can you redo the business card with this revised logo? Sure. And put the QR code in it on the back side. Sure, I can do that. And so I did all that, and I put it up, and I sent it to him. And I go, wait, I just tested that QR code. It's going to the wrong place. But my head was in the other project, thinking I put in the wrong QR code, but I actually put in the right QR code. I just had the projects confused in my head for a second. And I wrote him and I said, I think test that QR code. I think I got it sent to the wrong place. I might need your new link for that QR code, etc., etc. So the details of juggling 3 jobs at once, all of a sudden, I confused myself. I became confused. And I confused myself. And then I think I confused my client. So there it is. Blame the time change, says Daniel Craig. Yeah, I hardly notice time changes anymore. You know why? Because my body wakes me up at weird times all the time. My body wakes me up at 4 a.m. to 5 a.m. almost every morning. Just boom, like clockwork. It's 4:09, 4:09, 4:09. I think I'd invested in a cleaner company or something. So now this morning I woke up at I think 4 o'clock, and then tried to sleep a little bit more. I think I got up at 5, which was 5 o'clock because your phones automatically reset. And giddy up, says JP. There it is. 5 a.m. is my typical bedtime, says Scott Allen. You know, I used to be that way, Scott. Uh, I would stay up all night doing stuff, and then I'd go all day. You catch a couple of hours of sleep, boom, you're going all day long. And then people wonder why you're tired at 8 o'clock at night. Well, you get a little shot of something and you keep going. And that's just the way I was my entire life. My body required very little sleep, it seemed. And it felt like I got a lot of stuff done. Hey, Sherry Avery, Sherry Emily Avery, good to see you. Pardon my addled mind, but I don't know if I've seen you here before, at least under that name. And if I have, sorry that if I'm getting that wrong, but welcome to the program this morning. Daniel Craig is here. Scott Allen is here. Daniel Craig, he's a friend of mine online. Did we met at Abby and Bryn's Finfolk Studios? Did we not, or were we planning on doing it? That would have been 5 or 6 years ago when I was there painting the mural in their warehouse. So I can't remember, Daniel, if did we actually meet, or have we talked about it so much and talked so much that I feel like we met? Yeah, we did indeed. That's right. So everything, stuff like that, those are the things that make me worry about my brain some days. Did I actually meet? Did we meet? Go get some coffee or eat or sit in the studio, or did I just think we did because we talked about it so much? That's what my brain does. Scott Allen says, I recently had an external hard drive die. Oh, shit. That had over 10 years of art project folders on it. Were you able to retrieve any of that yet? I've had that happen. I've had external drives. I've got 3 external drives. Well, no, 1, 2, 3, and a 4th one sitting down here that I got a few years ago. My drives, my external ones are older, and they're starting to die, or they won't come up as quick. Sounds like life for guys, doesn't it? We're not dead yet. We just don't come up as quick. And so I started loading all that stuff when I could get them to run right onto the new drive, which was like a 10 terabyte drive or something like that. So I hate that when I lose data because a drive dies. I've had that happen a couple of times to me. There's things I've lost over the years that I'll never get back. I remember, now this is really a long time ago, but back in the early 90s, I started writing a novel. It was the novelization of the graphic novel that I had done, the Bloodlore Chronicles. And I started writing it as a novel instead of a comic book. And it got really detailed. I got into a couple chapters deep, and then I lost it. It was gone. And back in 1990, when you lost stuff online, that was still pretty new. And everybody's going, oh, you need to back that up on a floppy disk. I didn't back it up on a floppy disk. So let's see. Daniel Craig says, now we need to start planning our coastal retreat out in the Roanoke Sound of the Outer Banks. My improved power grid with 10,000 watts of solar, 2,000 watts wind turbine should be finished within the week. By the way, guys, Daniel Craig, he's got this beautiful cottage, would you call it? House, small house, right on the shore of Roanoke Sound in the Outer Banks. My daughters would love that, Daniel. My young daughters, my 9, almost 10, 10 and 13-year-old. They watch that show Outer Banks faithfully over and over and over and over again. He's so dreamy. So, um, yeah, they would love that. I would love nothing more than to. That's the reason I brought up. Did we actually meet face to face 5, 6 years ago, or did I think we did? Because I said I was going to say I don't think we've met face to face. Well, yeah, we have, haven't we? Because I would love to go out and spend some time just sitting on your veranda, looking over the Roanoke Sound, the ocean, folks, and having a good time, having a few drinks, and just sucking up that scenery out there. I've seen pictures. It's a glorious place. Talk to Daniel here in the chat room. He'll tell you how to get a hold of him and how to see some of his stuff. I wish I could put some of your stuff up. Randall Flagg says it's filmed in South Carolina. Outer Banks is in South Carolina, isn't it? Or is it in North Carolina? I don't remember. Randall Flagg, welcome to the show, by the way. Roanoke is a beautiful area indeed. Sherry says, Sherry, I used to live in Lynchburg, Virginia years ago. I was an artist in a shop out there. And Roanoke was a 38-mile drive, I think, south of where we were. So we went down to Roanoke a couple of times. Beautiful drive in the fall. And Sherry grew up in North Carolina. My daughters live in North Carolina right now, my oldest daughters. For those of you who don't know, my twin daughters, Abby and Bryn, they moved their business to Hawaii. And Hawaii, they were out there a year and a half, and Hawaii became way too expensive to do what they were doing. So about 6 years ago, something like that, they moved it, not back home here to the Minneapolis-St. Paul area, but they moved it to North Carolina. And they lived in Asheville, which was just very recently devastated by the hurricane. And about 5 years ago, they moved there. Well, I got the timing off because it was about 5 or 6 years ago, they moved it up to Charlotte, North Carolina. Small town, half an hour or so outside of Charlotte. Lincolnton is where their company is now. So that's where they are. Randall says, my aunt lived in Roanoke, long gone now. I still have friends out in Lynchburg, Virginia. The friends who brought me out there to work for their company, they are now in up on Cape Cod, I believe it is. Cape May or Cape Cod. Somewhere out there. And Sherry was a military brat, she says. Havelock, North Carolina was my stomping grounds. Most of my life was in Atlantic Beach. That's pretty cool. I grew up here in Minneapolis area and spent most of my life in Minneapolis. Spent 2-3 years in Detroit, which, sorry if you're from Detroit, I hate Detroit. I don't even want to ever go. I got a friend in Detroit I would go visit. Been my friend since high school. They moved to Detroit years ago. He worked for Ford for 30 years. And they're still out there. I don't like Detroit. I never did. I've also lived in Lynchburg, Virginia, and I was there for a couple of years. Really enjoyed Lynchburg. So other than those two sojourns out of state for profession, I have lived in the Minneapolis-St. Paul area my entire life. And it's not that I got a fly in here, sorry. It's cool outside, but they like to come in when the door goes open for the dogs to go outside. Guess who likes to come in? The flies. So, yeah, well, we're in western Wisconsin now, a small town, not a farming community, but farms all around. It's rural, small town. It's about 2 blocks long in western Wisconsin. We're about 45 minutes from downtown Minneapolis. So if we go straight east, so it's not that far. We're just across the border. A lot of people here work in the Twin Cities. So I lived in Wayne, Michigan for about 5 years, near Detroit, though. Tough area. Yeah, we live in Wayne? We lived when I first moved out there. We lived downriver, which not Allen Park, but a little bit one more step out in a suburb. But I worked in Allen Park. Wayne, my buddy lived in Wayne the whole time. I think he's in Allen Park now. So yeah, I know the area. I wouldn't be able to find my way around there anymore, though. I moved out of Detroit in '91 back to the Twin Cities. And so it was actually early '92 because it was when my twin daughters were born in 1992. So, hmm. So I did want to talk a little bit. Oh, you lived in Fall River, Massachusetts as well. I've got friends in Fall River. Currently have a home in Chester County, Tennessee, and a home in Somerset, Massachusetts. Well, I'm in Somerset, Wisconsin. How about that? So you're kind of a gypsy. That's cool, Sherry. And so, hey, listen, I am going to go get some more coffee. I'm going to take a break. There's nothing to watch. So I'll put a little something on. It'll last about a minute, and I'll be back in about 2 or 3. So everybody stand by. I'll be right back.
Are you looking for a really awesome and amazing graphic designer? How about an illustrator or a photographer? This is Raini Roberts, and I wanted to tell you how you can get my designer, illustrator husband, Scotty Roberts, to work for you on your project. Do you have an awesome self-published book but no cover, or even worse, a cover that really sucks? Do you need a kick-ass logo for your company, or some awesome graphic designs for your ads or website? Then get in touch with my husband for the best awesome kick-ass design and illustration. He knows his stuff, and he's been at this for more years than I've been alive. Go to ScottAllenRoberts.com. That's Scott with 2 T's, ALANROBERTS.com to take a look at his online portfolio of work, or call 651-468-8115. Now go out and kick some ass with some kick-ass graphic design.
I am my dad, so he can take me to Disneyland.
Yeah, I'm coming. That was longer than a minute. I know. Here we go. Got my coffee warmed up. Oh, thanks for hanging on. And I found something on the kitchen counter. I was going to bring it down and ask you what this thing is. I got a question for you though. All of you out there who might be involved with, I don't know, artsy craftsy things. I hate to put it in that category because I have I've gone onto some automatic things where I'm filling out things on websites and stuff, and it lists me as being in arts and crafts. I'm like, no, I am not in arts and crafts. Arts and crafts to me is like doing decoupage of, light switch fixtures for your living room wall. That's arts and crafts stuff. Although I know people who've done some pretty intricate stuff with that. I am, of course, as you all know, I'm an illustrator, I'm a designer, and I did a thing. It's coming up on the 10-year anniversary of this thing, and you were waiting for the Archie Bunker flush. Yeah, really. No pipes in here, so you wouldn't have heard it anyway. So, let's see. What's it like where I live? Here, I'll get back to my talk in a second here. City, county, rural. Yeah, we're rural here. And it's small town. Like I said, it's about 2 blocks long with a couple of old buildings in it and some businesses. More bars than restaurants. Couple of gas stations, things like that. But if you go across the bridge and up the hill toward the highway, there's a lot more business. There's a business park up there and stuff like that. But I did something about 10. I'm coming up on the 10th anniversary of this. Now, some of you saw my post on Facebook saying, showing a picture of Demi Moore when she had the bodysuit painted on her. I think that came out, 20 years ago on the cover of Esquire, I think it was. And I said, I've been trying to talk Raini into letting me do this on her, paint a costume on her, but she hasn't let me yet. Not that we haven't, used markers and things, but never an official do a photo shoot. But I did do something 10 years ago. It'll be on the 2nd of December. Will be our youngest daughter, Ellery's 10th birthday. So 10 years ago, toward the end of the month here, I think it was 2 days before Raini gave birth to Ellery, I did a casting of her body from the neck down to the belly because I wanted to be able to preserve that and bronze it. And it was the first time I had ever done anything like that. And it wasn't really professionally done. It was, you wrap on the strips of things and so on and so on and so on. But let's see. I may even have a picture of when I did that. I don't know how handy it is. Let's see. We'll call it. I don't even know what I called it. Casting. Did I use that word? 9, I did not. All right. So if I can find this, I'll let you know, and I'll put it up for you. But I happen to have it right here. And the thing about it is that it's thin. It's a little, shall you say, it's a little flimsy in place. It's really rough on the edges. I've got to trim around the edges. Here's my question of anybody who has any kind of experience in this stuff at all, is that is there something I can use to coat the inside of this thing that will solidify it? Now I got to do a little sanding on the surface because it's a little bumpy in place because I didn't know what I was doing. But I've got this thing, and it's been sitting in a box for 10 years. And I want to be able to give this to Raini, maybe for Christmas. as a finished piece, finally, after 10 years. So, martial arts and crafts, said Scott Allen. So here it is. Here's the piece. Um, I have it sitting out because I was trying to do something with it. Now, I can't show you my wife naked, but I've got a plaster cast of her naked. Doesn't have all the little tiny details, but it's from, like the bottom of her pregnant belly up to her neck and her shoulder. And this is what I've got. It looks like this. All right. So I've got this piece. You can see that is Ellery in there when she was about 2 days before she was going to be born. So I've got this piece, and you can see how rough it is in places. It needs to be sanded here, things like that, or I just leave it rough. But I want to bronze the outside of this. But the problem I have, and you can see, is the inside is so I've got to trim all this down flat or flush so I can hang this on a wall as a piece on the wall. And on the inside, what do I paint? Is there some kind of solution I can put on this that will prevent this from being so flimsy and cracking? So I'm surprised it's lasted as long as it has. So reinforce it on the inside with fiberglass, says JP. That'll be your best bet. Then once you have surface prepped, you can utilize a good quality enameled primer and then paints. So I'm not going to bronze it. I don't know how to do that. I don't even know if I could do that with this. But so on this piece, so fiberglass that you're saying, I'm going to have to look into how to fiberglass the inside because I don't want to lose this. And I want to surprise her with it at Christmas that, hey, I took it out of the box and actually did something with it. So there it is. I've got pictures of her sitting with this thing on while it's curing. I think she had to sit for almost 2 hours before we could pull this thing off of her. And so she was quite a sport and in good spirits. And then she gave birth 2 days later. So I wish I had done it for the other kids as well. But so I'll put it back in its box so I don't ruin it. So there we go. All right. Now I got plaster bits all over me. So fiberglassing. I will have to look into that. Fiberglass matte and resin, like you're doing a fiberglass patch on a car. Okay. Well, that's interesting. I should give that a shot. Hey, Susie Q. Good to see you. And everybody who's here again. So you can use flour as a paste with newspaper. So kind of like paper mache. You're saying that would work too? That's maybe the arts and crafts version of what JP was just talking about. Uh-oh. Good stuff going on with the dogs upstairs. I may have to run up there again for a minute. Plaster? Yeah, maybe. That's what I was thinking. So I'm going to have to look into it. Hold on a second, guys. I'm going to play this little ad again. I got to run upstairs, see what's going on with that. Sorry. It's Sunday morning. It's casual. It's informal. So let me throw this up once more, and I'll be right back.
Are you looking for a really awesome and amazing graphic designer? How about an illustrator or a photographer? This is Raini Roberts, and I wanted to tell you how you can get my designer, illustrator husband, Scotty Roberts, to work for you on your project. Do you have an awesome self-published book but no cover, or even worse, a cover that really sucks? Do you need a kick-ass logo for your company or some f***ing awesome graphic designs for your ads or website? Then get in touch with my husband for the best f***ing awesome kick-ass design and illustration. He knows his stuff, and he's been at this for more years than I've been alive. Go to ScottAllenRoberts.com. That's Scott with 2 T's, ALANROBERTS.com to take a look at his online portfolio of work, or call 651-468-8115. Now go out and kick some ass with some kick-ass graphic design.
Hi, my dad. So he can take me to Disneyland.
All right, back once again. Woo. You know, I mentioned last week we have this foster dog that we have taken on, that my wife took on, surprised me with. And that foster dog had eaten some sections of a rubberized ball and got them lodged in her stomach, and it was blocking her up. Well, they opened her up. They found that piece, and they found two more big pieces like that size, already all the way down into her intestines, and they had to dig those out. And so she had three big pieces about that size that were lodged in her stomach. So she had the stomach surgery, and they pulled all those pieces out. And now, of course, she's all stitched up. And she has to, if we're not watching her, she has to wear the cone of shame around her head. And she's been pretty good about it. But the first couple of days, as you can imagine, she was rather sedate and chill. The problem with this dog is that she went for 6 years without ever having been trained. Elderly couple, the wife died, left it to the man. The man was almost incapacitated, I hear. The dog shit and pissed in the house everywhere and ate off of his plate and all that. Well, this dog bites. And I said the first couple of days we had her, just trying to attach a leash to her collar, she would try to bite you. It's like, don't fuck with me, I'll bite you. You know, it's a little Boston Terrier mix thing. And it's like, you know what? I said, now we've had this dog for a good 7 to 8 weeks, something like that. So it's not my dog. I don't have a lot of affection attached to this dog. The dog has never allowed me to get close to it. It loves my daughter. Tail wagging. Raini walks in her tail wagging. She's all excited. I come near and she eyeballs me. She's like, her head is down like a vulture. And those big round eyeballs. She stares up at me. Her tail goes. And I go, hi, how you doing? And I just reach right down and I give her a pat up under the chin. I give her a kiss on the top of the head. She just, oh, okay. Yeah, whatever. So this dog, never quite got used to this dog. Hey, Gabriel, good to see you. Thanks for coming into the show this morning. And yeah, sorry, Professor, and everybody else. I had to step out for a couple of minutes for junk going on up there. So every now and then they get into it. Lucy, Raini's dog, our dog, family dog for the last 7 years, Lucy Fur, our pug mini English bulldog, which many of you have seen. She does fine and all that. This dog, though, gets rattled by her. And every now and then, it's a peaceable existence. Peaceful. And we've got the cat, Bob Saget. Bob Saget couldn't give a rat's ass who's who. He's like, whatever, just leave me alone. So, So what'd you say there, Gabriel? I got to see. I don't even know what this means. Buenas tardes. That's good something. Tardes, does that have anything to do with lateness or day or desde Madrid? You're in Madrid? Un saludo. So hello from Madrid, I think he's saying. Good day. I'm sounding this out. Good day. Salutations and greetings from Madrid. That's pretty cool. Thank you, Gabriel. Nice to have you here. This is our informal show. The formal show is Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So good to have you here. Where's Bob? I'm seeing Bob. Good morning, Bob. You talking about Bob Saget, the cat? Bob Saget? So, yeah, I'm drinking my coffee right now, Susie Q. So I don't remember where I left off or what the hell I was talking about, but the dogs get into it every now and then. And I hear the girls or Rainy and the girls kind of yelling and all of that and blah, 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 blah. And so I just went up to check it out, make sure everything's okay. So what do we got here? I got some kind of link sent to me from Jason Patrick. It's a very long link. Let's see. Oh, paper and body repair tools, fiberglass. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. I will look into that. I was asking for this body casting that I did of Rainy 10 years ago now. It'll be 10 years in a month since I put that in a box to save it. So we'll have to see what we can do with it. I'll show you one more time. Hey, Heather White, you'd be somebody who would probably know with all of your artistic stuff. I'll show it one more time if you all missed it. This is the casting I did of a very pregnant Rainy with our last child, who will be 10 years old in a month. And this is Rainy 2 days before she gave birth to Ellery, our youngest. So I've got to reinforce this. It's very flimsy, as you can see. I got to trim it down so it can hang on a wall. I'm going to bronze it, faux bronze it. But I got to sand it down a bit first where it's got all the rough. I'd never done this before. So you can see even the belly button. It's just an indentation. Didn't work very well. So, but I want to try to surprise her with this for Christmas and get this thing bronzed. So there you go. And I need to find JP suggested fiberglass on the inside to sturdy this thing up before I do any sanding work on it or anything like that. I'm just afraid of, after 10 years of it surviving in this box, that I don't destroy it by working on it. So there you go. That's as close as you get to seeing my wife naked on air. So maybe Heather, your fiberglass or maybe expanding foam. That's another one. JP said fiberglass. So you can fiberglass in horizontal supports inside to keep it from having any real flex. Yeah, I want to take the flex totally out of it. What's going on? You making breast diseases? No, this is a 10-year-old casting of Rainy when she was pregnant, just 2 days before giving birth, from our youngest child, Ellery, who will be 10 on December 2nd. Foam, yeah. Yeah, foam, says Susie Q. I don't want it now. Expanding foam. It's not going to expand so much that it's going to start distorting the plaster image, will it? That's the questions I have. I don't want to destroy this thing after it's surviving for 10 years. I want to fix it and finish it. So there you go. That's a great idea, Heather White. How you doing over there in Scotland, Heather? Good to see you this morning, or this afternoon for you. Is it still a 6-hour difference? We had our time change out of daylight savings time last night, so it's now 10 minutes of 10 a.m. It's almost 10 a.m. here. Is it still 4 p.m. there now, or is it 3 p.m.? Are we 5 hours apart now? Good to know, Heather. Good to know. You should come on and say hello to everybody from Glasgow, Scotland. So call in. If none of you know how to call in, here is the link. It's in the description, but boom, there it is. So it's 3:50. So we're still 6 hours apart. Okay. Yeah, still 6 hours apart. That's odd. Did your time change along with ours? So there it is, folks, if you want to call into the show. I'm also going to do a couple of tarot readings for those of you who would like one. And I'm not going to do many. I'm not going to fill the show with them this morning. But I went and made a promise over on TikTok, my TikTok. I put up a little video that said, come on over and watch the show this morning. We're going to talk some politics, which we haven't even gotten into yet. And we're going to talk some politics. We're going to talk about science or other things. We haven't gotten to any of those topics yet. We're mostly just talking nothing stuff. So we're going to get into some of that now. And we'll do a couple of readings, I said. So Elderberry says, top of the day, Heather. White. Yeah, we lost. Oh, you lost an hour as well. So did we. No, wait. We went backwards. Spring forward, fall back. So we gained an hour overnight. So that's how it worked for us. And look who it's JP. How you doing, man? What's going on?
What's going on? Hang on 1 second.
All right, I'm getting a little feedback.
What's going on? There we go. Sorry, I had everything pulled up on my TV as I was doing things around the house, and
all right.
left it open on the phone so I could message the stuff about fiberglass and everything.
Have you heard this little story? I was going to lead off with this today, and I didn't get into it. But about Peanut the squirrel.
I can't hear you.
Uh-oh. I wonder what's going on.
Can you hear me?
What's going on?
If you can hear me, give a thumbs up.
I can hear you. So
all right, let me try this again. I'm going to back on out.
All right. Folks, have you heard the story about Peanut the squirrel? And when JP comes in, hopefully he'll be able to hear some of this too. Peanut the squirrel became kind of this viral social media sensation. There was a guy who had rescue horses, and he had rescued a raccoon, a baby raccoon, and it became domesticated in his home. And he also had rescued this squirrel. Can you hear me now?
Can you hear me? Because I can't hear you.
I can hear you.
This is really weird.
So
I have no idea what's going on. I can't hear you.
I can hear you. Whatever I just said. Hopefully I didn't offend some hearless person.
Nope. Can't hear you.
Still can't hear me. Is your speaker on? So JP's going to try to figure out his audio over there. So yeah, Susie Q heard about this story. The way I heard the story was somebody who does, just a guy, he does some conservative commentary, and he's pretty sharp and pretty edgy. And he was really upset by this. He was sitting in his car with a shirt on and a tie, and his tie loosened up from work or something. And he said, this really disturbs me. And he said, just when I thought I couldn't dislike the media anymore, he says, I dislike them even more now. And he showed a story from a paper, and I didn't catch which paper it was because it was just flashed on and off. But they made this into a right-wing nutcase scenario about the squirrel. Let's push that aside for a second. What happened was this guy who rescues animals, he's got a nice place. He's not, he doesn't have a weird, trashy looking barnyard full of junk and stuff. He's got a nice place. He's got horses he's rescued. He's got this raccoon that he rescued, and this young squirrel who was injured. And he rescued it, nursed it back to health, and it became like a pet. Well, the government came in New York State. They came in and they spent 5 hours in his home, had him outside of the house. They confiscated his squirrel and his raccoon, and in the process, the squirrel bit somebody who was mishandling it, and the squirrel got euthanized, as did the raccoon. And so here's a man who rescued these animals. They became his pets, but the state came in, took them away, and then euthanized them to see if they had rabies. And that's the only way you can figure out if it has rabies or not, I guess. And and JP, I was wondering if you had heard this story. I just saw it on the internet today. Here is he was called Peanut the Squirrel. His grieving owner says he was treated like a terrorist in a 5-hour raid by New York State. So an upstate man whose beloved squirrel was cruelly killed by the state said he was treated like a terrorist when 10 government agents descended on his home during a 5-hour raid. Mark Longo, whose pet Peanut, it's P apostrophe Nut, captured the hearts of 3 million social media users, was stunned when a convoy of vehicles carrying officials from the State Departments of Environmental Conservation and Health arrived at his Pine City home on Wednesday. And Peanut's owner, Mark Longo, said he was treated like a terrorist. And by the way, I will put this picture up just so you guys can see what it is who it is I'm talking about. This is going to be, we're going to put it up as a PDF. And I will save this. Let me import this so you can see this guy we're talking about. You can also look up the story if you'd like, but I want to get your take on this, JP, too. But let me finish the
certainly
story.
not. Squirrel certainly doesn't warrant a 5-hour raid.
No, it doesn't. Which seems kind of weird, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's one of those things of I want to know what the Paul Harvey rest of the story is. Not to
defend the government, the police, the whoever, animal control, whatever. Not so much to defend things, but anymore in this day and age, it seems like so much is you only get part of the story.
Yep.
You only get what leads to the clickbait. You only get what.
There's the guy and his squirrel. That's Peanut.
This is in New York.
This is in New York. Here's more of the story. He said he was treated like a terrorist. They served him with a surprise warrant, allowing them to snatch away Peanut, the squirrel, and Fred, a raccoon he'd also taken in. They treated me like I was a terrorist. They treated this raid as if I was a drug dealer. They ransacked my house for 5 hours, Longo told the Post on Sunday. This is the New York Post reporting this. They asked my wife, who is of German descent, what her immigration status was. They asked if I had cameras in my house. They wouldn't allow me to go to the bathroom without a police escort, who then checked the back of the toilet to see if I was hiding anything there. But worse than all of that, they delivered this gray fur baby to its death. The state claimed it had to euthanize both animals on Friday so that they could be tested for rabies because the squirrel sunk its teeth into the hand of an official during the disturbing raid. The test results are not yet known. Now, by the way, this is a microcosm of how the media sways opinion. Just that one line, because the squirrel sank its teeth into the hands of an official during the disturbing raid. Take out the word disturbing, you have reporting that is not biased in one direction or the other, because the squirrel sunk its teeth into the hands of an official during the raid.
So, out of curiosity, what news source is this?
This is the New York Post.
Okay.
So Longo says, we rehabbed the squirrel for 8 months. We released him for a day and a half, but he ended up getting attacked. He never developed the instincts to survive outside, Longo told the Post.
Right.
Peanut slept in his own room in their house in Pine City, just south of Elmira, New York. Fred arrived 4 months ago after being dropped off at their front door and split time between an outdoor enclosure and a room in their residence. Peanut and Fred were targeted, and not other animals living on the 350-acre property. He's got 350 acres because they lived indoors. Peanut was a star on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Even Elon Musk paid tribute to him on X just yesterday. One post said, President Donald Trump will save the squirrels. Another lamented, government overreach kidnapped an orphan squirrel and executed him. My phone is blowing up from people around the country saying how much they love Peanut, Longo said. I have people who call me and cry more than I do. The Connecticut native moved to upstate New York last April to start Peanut's Freedom Farm, a nonprofit animal rescue he operates with his wife, Daniela. The sanctuary is home to 300 rescue animals. He also has an OnlyFans account under the name Squirrel Daddy. It was separate from his animal rescue work. That's just me, completely separate. It actually just made enough money for us to start this organization. By the way, OnlyFans, Jason, you want to get rich quick? Start an OnlyFans page.
Yeah. No, nobody needs to see that.
Longo was stunned that the gang of so-called government conservationists searching his home Wednesday kept him from tending his other animals during their raid. I was not even allowed to fill their water tanks, he said. Longo explained it's illegal to house a squirrel and a raccoon, but he didn't have the heart to keep them outside. The DEC said in a statement obtained by WETM, I don't know what WETM is, that the raid was in response to complaints about Fred, the raccoon, but Longo claimed they used him as an excuse to get Peanut. The only time I ever talked to the DEC prior to this was when they got complaints from anonymous people on the internet for Peanut about 5 or 6 months ago, and that was before Fred, the raccoon, he said. They used Fred as their go-to to get into my house. Potential spam call on my phone. They do it on Sunday mornings even, folks. There you go. So hopefully I put that call to bed. Caller, I'm on the radio, so you can go away. The only time I ever talked to the DEC prior to this was when they got complaints from anonymous people on the internet about Peanut. You know, doesn't that toast you a little bit too? There are people out there that will just tag they don't like what you're doing or what you say, and they'll complain about you.
Well,
They can get you
yeah.
shut
I mean,
down.
look at PETA. I mean, Jesus.
Yeah, anonymously. Now, the DEC claimed Peanut bit one of its officials on the hand during the raid. But Longo said he didn't witness that, and the official's hands were heavily protected. I watched everybody put gloves on before they entered my house. They had gloves that you can get an eagle to land on, he said. Longo is demanding an investigation into the claim that they were checking the animal for rabies and filing a motion to get the medical records the officials used in his house to see if they actually got tested for the disease. Now, by the way, I don't want to get any animal lovers or breeders or anything like that on a hot bundle here, but my experience with like dog breeders, horse breeders, rescue people, their houses tend to look like, sorry to say this, barns, indoor barns that they share with their animals. And they don't seem to be the neatest, cleanest people. And I'm going to get a lot of hate mail for this one. I didn't even get those anonymous, you got to pull his site off for saying what he said. I'm so offended. They're usually not fit people that I have seen my experience, and their surroundings reflect that. Now, this guy, I'm looking at pictures of him inside his house. Looks like he's got a new construction house. The walls are white and light gray, wood floors, wood banister going up the staircase. Clean, neat, and he's in great shape. So he already doesn't fit the mold of some of those people. But he's got this rescue place. Peanut and Fred did not have rabies, or I wouldn't be here talking to you right now, he said. I've been around them long enough played with them, cared for them, and I didn't foam at the mouth, he said. Longo only found out his animals were put down through his local news station, said the state must answer for its actions. Why was there so much force brought to my house for a raccoon and a squirrel? He asked 10 people.
Well, I got to tell you what, you know, you may not know this, but I've certainly read the articles about it, or at least seen the memes anyway.
Yep.
There was a man who trained a squirrel to attack on command.
Oh, well,
I'm just saying. He trained
know
a
people who
squirrel
do that
to
with
attack
their
his ex-wife on
I know
command.
people who do that with their dogs. And can the state come in and confiscate your animal because you've trained it to be a protect animal? I don't know. So if he trained his squirrel to attack on command, what is it?
I want to know the Paul Harvey rest of the story. That's what I like.
Right.
To come
I'd
in
like
and
to
just
know the
take a
rest of the
squirrel and a
story on just
raccoon
that.
is you know, and sending in a whole bunch of, you know, burly dudes and all kinds of gear to do it for 5 hours.
Yeah, why 10 people?
Yeah.
Why don't they just send out a team, couple
An
of people,
animal
say, "Hey, we
control
gotta
guy.
protect
And
these animals."
has there been any sort of you know, what's the political climate in Elmira? I haven't lived in New York
I
since
don't know.
2011.
All
But
he says here, the guy, he says we have so many other things that we need to focus on. We use our government to do this shit when we can't even fix the problems we have in daily human life. Governor Hochul of New York, along with the state DEC and health department, did not respond to messages seeking comment. One elected official blasted state government for its over-the-top response.
yeah.
With all the crime in our migrant shelters, good to know we have the time and resources to send 10 people out for a squirrel SWAT team, scoffed City Councilman Joe Borelli, who's a Republican, Staten Island. I can't wait to meet the new senior advisor to the governor, Elmer J. Fudd. Senator Thomas O'Mara, who is Longo's state representative, said he has reached out to the DEC and Chemung County Department of Health and has been stonewalled on getting an answer about who authorized the decision to euthanize Peanut. Now, of course, this is a very small thing on the grand scheme of things, but it's big to this guy, and he wanted to get some answers. If it was big enough to send 10 people out, why isn't it big enough to get a response to?
Well, here's the other thing too. Why did it take 5 hours to collect a squirrel, you know, and a raccoon or whatever? There was no, and that's why I want to know the rest of the story, right?
Me too.
Because
what else was said about him? Did somebody turn him in, or was there something that said this guy's doing drugs or he's got connection to cartels? His wife is an immigrant from Germany. They're married.
Yeah.
He said, this is a quote from Longo again. He said, everything else our government looks the other way on as far as illegal immigrants, but then come down on someone harboring a squirrel, said Senator Thomas O'Mara. It just highlights the priorities of the government we have in New York State. Frankly, it's disturbing. We need answers from both the state DEC and the Chemung County Department of Health. It's amazing to me how a little thing like a squirrel can spark something that's bigger.
Right. Well, and it's interesting, like, you know, that they sat there and they took the time to check on her immigrant status. Now, so when I was stationed up at Fort Drum, I had an NCO in the brigade that I hung out with. We were both into the living history stuff and collecting World War II gear. And you know, frequent conversations at work. My girlfriend at the time was, you know, good friends with his wife and stuff like that. And she was a German immigrant. Now, there was a big crackdown on smuggling of cigarettes from Canada into New York and vice versa and things like that. And she drives this, you know, and they only made a limited number of them. But it's a Jeep Wrangler that was in this bright, like, basically neon green.
Yeah.
And you know, she's just driving down 81 or whatever, heading on to Post or heading back to the house or whatever, because they kind of lived out in the sticks. and they pulled her over and they started, giving her the what for and wanting to search the car, check her immigration status, all this stuff over this cigarette smuggling problem. And then, like, at the end of it, they were like, well, your vehicle fits the description of, vehicles that have been running, doing this stuff. And, she basically sat there on the side of the road. She sat there on the side of the road with this guy and was like, she didn't have all of her documentation on her or something like that. And she called her immigration officer, because they have like case managers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And she ended up calling him and was like, so I've been detained on the side of the road because they think I'm involved in some sort of, potentially some sort of illegal cigarette smuggling operation. And they're demanding all of my paperwork and they're demanding all of this other stuff and things like that. Can you help me out on this? And they sat on the side of the road. If I remember correctly, they sat on the side of the road for a couple of hours waiting for this guy to show up there. It was like, bring your boss out here, bring whatever. Yeah, like she stood her ground on it, and then they ended up being like, okay, sorry, and let her go. But some stuff is so asinine. Like, why are you even doing this? And New York is a very interesting state.
Interesting state. Yes.
You have a mostly agrarian state, right? Run by the politics of New York City and by Albany, right?
Yeah.
And the things that they have up there in terms of restrictions on stuff, in terms of how you can do things, I mean, like just leading into the firearm side of things as a great example. So when I was stationed up there, I would go into Gander Mountain. I'd pick up ammo for whatever I had. Outdoor gear, stuff like that. It was also attached to the mall, and but they always had a big selection of like antique firearms, right? World War I, World War II stuff, things like that. And I was looking at getting a pistol. I didn't have a pistol at that point. I was looking at getting that, and I understood you had to have a pistol permit, and it's like, well, I'm just looking. I'm looking at the case. There's a 1911 in there, government model, and I'm like, hey, can I take a look at this 1911? And they're like, do you have your pistol permit? And I'm like, well, no, but I'm looking into getting it, and I'm just kind of wanting to see what I want to get. Does this fit well in my hand? Does this fit well in my hand? Is this something that ergonomically would work for me? Is this particular brand? How does the action feel? What's the trigger break? Like all that stuff, right?
Right.
They would not take it out of the case to let me hold it without a pistol permit.
Wow.
But I could go in and I could buy AR-15, M1 Garand, K98s, Mosin Nagant 9130s, whatever. Craig Jorgensen 3040s. Like I could go and I could grab them off the rack and just sit there, open everything up, look at it, dry fire, all that stuff I could do, but I couldn't hold a pistol in a pistol case. And it's just like, what sort of backwards logic is this?
It's backwards logic.
Yeah.
Is what it is. So, yeah, I plan on getting, fall goes well in the next couple of months, plan on Raini and I getting a little stocked up on some firearms. And
given the current state of things and stuff like that, I have half a mind to either take off or telework Tuesday and Wednesday, and I will spend my break time that I am not working setting up my sectors of fire on a range card from my windows, because I don't know what kind of idiots are going to, just absolutely break loose.
Like I told,
especially on either side, but it's like, what the F?
It's like I told this story before about the last election 4 years ago, where a young woman not so young anymore. She's about Raini's age. She used to be a young woman when I knew her 25 years ago.
Yeah.
I knew that she was on the more leftist side of things in life. And she wrote me before the last election, about this time, a few days before the last election.
Yeah.
She said, I know who you're voting for. And she said, do you have any firearms in the house? Do you have any guns? She said. I said, we're okay in that category. I'm not willing to reveal everything I know.
Right.
And she said, well, I hope you know how to use them, because if Trump wins, she said, you're going to need them. I said, for what? And she said, well, I happen to know a lot of people that are going to take up arms against people who voted him in. And she said, I just might go along with them.
Jesus.
I said, in essence, you're telling me I need to arm myself because of you and people you know who might be mad because they didn't win the election.
See, that's the thing is, like, I don't worry about somebody specifically coming after me.
With all the complaining you do about voter ID being something that is like a poll tax or is wrong, preventing, I said,
nowhere near a
would
poll
this
tax.
not be a threat to me? Is this a veiled threat to say that if I vote for Donald Trump, I'm going to need to have my gun by my side because of people like you? I said, do you hear yourself? And she hasn't really talked to me since then. It's been about 4
Right.
years.
Well, people get crazy about it. And see, that's the thing is, like, I'm not worried about something like if I go in and I vote for Trump, all right, you know, and I'm not saying one way or the other, you know, I can tell you I'm not voting for Harris Walz. You know, that still leaves me two directions to go with voting. So anybody out there who wants to have a problem, I'm not going to tell you who I voted for. That's my right to privacy, and as a citizen, and you don't need to know. Nobody needs to know, right? I'm not worried about being singled out. What I'm worried about is things like mob rule and rioting kind of things, where I've just, you know, if it spreads, if something goes down, you know, I'm not saying I'm right next door to Ferguson or something like that, but Ferguson is relatively close by. Things spill over. We all saw everything that went down with Minneapolis, with Seattle, with Portland. You know, all of those things. You know, back in 20, the way people kind of just collectively lost their minds and mob rule took over, because herd mentality becomes very strong in that kind of situation.
Yes.
I just want to be able to stay, you know, get off my
thought-
lawn.
I thought at first you said herb mentality. Herd with a D, not a B. Herb mentality.
Yeah, I mean, you know, well, you know, if you watch the movie Reefer Madness, then herb mentality would apply as well, I guess. But
I actually liked Pineapple Express.
Yeah.
That was a fun movie.
But it's just like people are being so stupid, and that's what I worry about. Yes. I worry about people being stupid collectively and it leading to problems. That's my problem.
Yes.
And it's weird too, just how polarizing this whole thing has been. That, you know, since elections even really got started talked about, not even actually getting into, you know, conventions or things like that. I mean, I know people who are fairly conservative, relatively speaking, who have just like absolutely, you know, jumped shark. Yes. You know, like, and it's like, what are you even talking about, man? Are you even thinking about some of the policies that this person is trying to express doing?
No, they're not. And by the way, good morning, James and Michael. No, they're not. That's the thing. I saw some people say, I cast my vote today, my early vote today for
I mean, I have off tomorrow. I'm voting early too.
What was the line? It was a woman. She said, to protect my reproductive rights. That's how I voted. She didn't name who she was voting
The
for.
fact that people narrow something down to 1 point
1 point.
is scary as hell.
And I said, I would say, I didn't argue with that person at all or anything. But I say, don't women already have reproductive rights? Is there not already freedom? That's
the thing that so many people aren't understanding, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you look at everything constitutionally, which is how, if you're a responsible citizen, an informed and intelligent citizen, is how you should look at it. Okay.
Yes.
Because under the Constitution, there is nothing in there. Therefore, something under this category falls under the 10th Amendment,
Yes.
which is left to the states to decide, right?
Yes.
So states have to do this stuff. This isn't a federal thing. Roe v. Wade should never have been, according to Constitution, something that became law, even if it was more like jurisprudence, right? So, like, you know, if you look at it, you shouldn't be blaming the federal government at this point. You should be looking to your state government and the people that you have voted for and that your state has voted for, and the decisions that they are making, because this is something that is not covered under the Constitution.
Right.
It's
and just so
covered by the
people
states.
know, the wording of the 10th Amendment, very short. The 10th Amendment says the powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively, or to the people.
Exactly.
There you go.
And that's why you see states out there that have, you know, they've initially come in with something hard right after things happened, and then they put things back up to a vote, and they put stuff more to a reasonable centrist kind of thing to make sure that they're incorporating things like rape, incest, etc. Right? You know, or life of the mother. Like, but nobody wants to pay attention to that. They get fed a steady diet of what the media spews to, you know, honestly, I people want to say, like, you know, oh, well, this is in these media companies are the machines of the Democratic Party and the machines of the Republican Party. Quite frankly, when it comes down to it, it's about ratings and money. That's what they care about. They're gonna do whatever they can, and they're gonna the owners and the editors and all of this stuff are going to basically take marching orders that look towards the best interests of the company itself and its investors, which is making money and staying in business.
Yes.
That and that falls down to their employees with the rules and guidance that they put forth to them. But like nobody wants to actually acknowledge that. Nobody wants to actually look at those things. Nobody actually wants to acknowledge the constitutionality of something. And then, you know, we get all the rhetoric that everybody throws around, and we get all the promises that get made, and all the we're going to do this, we're going to do that. I have tried to encourage a number of people that I know who throw out things about, you know, Harrison Waltz, and it's like, okay, so I want you guys to think about this whole thing with the $25,000 for first-time home buyers. All right, it sounds great. You're going to give us $25,000. It's more than likely going to come in the form of a tax credit, right? Because that's the easiest way, rather than a stack of paperwork separate from any other process, to just deposit $25,000 in somebody's account. Now then, if you take a $250,000 home, right, and you subtract $25,000 off the cost of that, or off the mortgage, okay, and at current interest rates, okay, and then you work that out over how much you're paying out of your own pocket on that, at given current interest rates over the course of a 30-year fixed rate loan. Okay.
All right.
Take those numbers.
All right. Set them over here. Now, take that $250,000 home without the tax credit, but with a stronger economy and a much lower interest rate. Like we're talking like 2019 interest rates, where you saw people getting 2 and 3% range, up into the low 4% range on interest rates. And then you take that and you calculate it out over the course of that 30-year fixed loan. The amount of money that you are going to pay in the long run is going to be way more. Okay. And assuming that you don't refinance if interest rates drop stupidly. Okay. If you just ride your loan out, you are going to pay exponentially more for $225,000 at a 7 or 8 or whatever percent interest rate over time than you are a $250,000 home at a 3% interest rate. It is a lot more money that you end up having come out of your pocket over the course of that mortgage. Like, people have to stop thinking in terms of the 50-yard target and the 100-yard target, and they need to start thinking more at the 200 and 300-yard target out on the range. What are the second and third order effects? And you have to be able to look long term. People can't do that, or they don't do it readily in that moment. And they have somebody just being like, we're going to give you $25,000. Oh my God, I'm going to get $25,000. That sounds awesome.
Yep.
No? And in the moment, it is, but you're going to pay for it later on. And not only are you going to pay for it later on your mortgage, you're paying for it all the way through that mortgage and beyond the end of that mortgage.
And frankly,
the taxpayers are paying for that.
And to oversimplify it, that house is going to cost $25,000 more than it would have normally cost.
Right.
Because
or more.
Or more. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we used to have a former listener to this show who I banned for insulting my wife. You might think that's petty. It's not. Don't insult my wife.
Yeah.
Or you will go to the same place. But
some things just need to stay off limits.
But he said, well, Bidenomics is working. Biden has my vote. My house just doubled in value, literally doubled in value over the last year under Bidenomics.
That's more really supply and demand.
I said, it doubled in value? I said, that's interesting. I said, so if it went from, let's say, 150 to 300,000, which is low for a house.
Yeah.
I said, so I got one question for you. Who's going to buy it?
Yeah.
Who's got the money to buy it? I said, you're saying it works. Will it increase the value of your home? I said, but will anybody be able to afford it? That's the big question you have to ask. To say, does this work? Kamala Harris wants to give you $25,000 because the pricing of homes has gone up so much. I don't hear her talking about price gouging when it comes to homes, like groceries.
Right.
But which, by the way, if you didn't know it, the whole price gouging thing is a bunch of B as in B, S as in S. It's a leftist, classist line.
Well, yeah, it absolutely is.
An abysmally low 1 to 2% profit margin.
Mm-hmm.
And so when the prices are going up, the grocery stores are hurting too.
Yeah, well, everybody's hurting. The grocery stores, not only the consumer, but the grocery stores are hurting because people are spending less. The manufacturers and producers are hurting because people are spending less. They still have operations to run. They still have that's the thing is when they talk about taxing, big businesses more and things like that. In fact, Ronald Reagan was right when he was on the Carson show, and I think it was back,
coincidentally, I just put up a meme from the Carson show when Reagan was on.
From the late 70s, early 80s, before he got into office. where, you know, he basically spells it out. It's like, look, this is a hidden sales tax or income tax that ends up being put onto these things
He says
because
when you tax, and the correlation is when you tax, like Kamala is saying, they need to pay their fair share,
right.
quote unquote. And the fair share to the corporations, she said, and billionaires. So you tax what they consider, who's determining what is their fair share when they
Right.
already pay 95% of the taxes in the country.
Like nobody looks at the numbers about how much money is actually being
Right.
brought in by taxes.
Right.
All they hear is that, oh, they pay
here's the
this
thing.
percent of rate. They need to pay more.
Those
And
corporations that are being taxed more, do you think that they just, we'll just absorb that?
No,
No.
of course not.
The price of their products increases to cover the taxes they're having to pay.
Right.
So in essence, what Ronald Reagan said 40 years ago, he said, when you tax corporations, he says it's really a tax on individuals who buy their products.
It is.
And
It absolutely
it
is.
now, folks.
And people don't want to hear that, or they don't understand that, or they tune out and don't want to hear anything other than, you know, this, oh, we're going to tax the middle class less and the lower income class, you know, less. That's the only thing they hear. Nobody does the critical thinking anymore. And
right.
it's like, how do we reintroduce that?
Grandfather used to call it.
Say that again.
So, Ronnie Reagan, that's what my communist grandfather used to call him back in the 80s. Ronnie Reagan. Susie Q, you said buy a smaller house, keep it paid off. The unrealized gains is absolutely absurd. The only problem with that, if you buy your house and you pay it off, you still have to pay taxes on that home.
Yeah, you're paying property taxes.
Guess who owns your home if you don't pay your taxes? Which means, guess who has all the control over your home?
Right. And there's actually kind of a move from more states to try to abolish property taxes.
Yes.
North Dakota is going through a huge thing with that right now with I think it's either Measure 3 or 4 that's going to be coming up you know, for a vote. And the thing is,
pay your taxes, Susie Q, where would your house go? Just ask.
That's the thing is the state or the city could be like, okay, well, we're going to put a lien on our home.
You owe us $7,492. We're going to take your $193,000 home away from you to pay that, and then we'll auction off the rest.
Right. And that's actually how there's a bunch of people who are, you know, property investors and things like that.
Yep.
Get into it. If you can sit there and you can actually go, because it's public record, you can go and pull the data of everything that is gone into foreclosure or that is, you know, in arrears with property taxes. If there's a lien against it from the city or from the state, you know, county, whatever, however your state does or implements its property taxes, and that governmental organization, that level, can place a lien against that house, and somebody can actually come in and buy your house out for whatever it is you owe on back property taxes. And they effectively have now just become your landowner or your landlord.
That's it.
And this kind of stuff happens all the time. Is that right? You know,
No.
like where or how is that right? If you've already paid off your loan to that house, you have bought the property, you have bought the home.
Why should the government be able to say, no, we own this property if you don't pay us taxes?
Yeah. You know, there's a lot of stuff where I would rather, honestly, in things like that, property tax, personal property tax, I would rather see higher sales taxes on goods or on certain services or whatever than property taxes. Because you shouldn't have to sit there and basically rent your house from the government.
I've said it here before, and you've seen, I think Vivek Ramaswamy said this the other day, a long time ago. I saw it the other day. He said they tax you. Oh, or was it Elon Musk? Both of them probably. He says you get taxed on your income.
Mhm.
You get taxed on what you spend. You get taxed on what's left over. You get taxed for unrealized gains, is what Kamala Harris is proposing. If you don't know what that means, it means gains on something you've invested in that you haven't gotten into your pocket yet. The
Yep.
projected gains on something, they're going to tax you on that now, even though it
Right.
hasn't happened yet.
Which then after collection day, that whole, whatever stock that you have, the market could tank in that sector, and
That's
then
it.
you have lost all of that money that you
Lost
didn't have.
everything.
Right,
So
and you lost everything.
unrealized gains.
Yeah.
When you tax on goods and services and income,
Mhm.
look at it this way, folks. You're paying income tax. If you work a regular job and they deduct your taxes, not for yourself where you got to pay it at the end of the year or quarterly. If you get your taxes deducted out of your paycheck, what you have left over in your pocket is what you buy groceries with, you buy your stuff with, you pay your bills. You get taxed on all of those things.
Which is
So
why I
why,
think,
if they're pulling out income tax at a rate of anywhere from 17 to 26%
Mhm.
out of your paycheck, why should you have to pay taxes for goods and services on what you have left? So you're being double taxed,
Right.
triple taxed. This is why they say the average American, if you add in your income tax that's deducted, plus the tax you pay on everything, by the way, gas tax, taxes that are buried in food, even though many states don't tax it because it's a necessity, it's taxed before it gets to the shelf. You're
Yeah.
paying a product price that includes tax in it. You pay for tax on your internet service. You pay
Mhm.
for tax on everything you buy, everything you spend your money on. They say the average American spends about 62 to 65% of their gross income paying taxes.
Mhm.
Is that the way it's meant to be in this country? Is that right? Donald Trump just said the other day something about, I'm looking into the possibility of eliminating a federal income tax.
Well,
Wow, that's big.
we used to not have one. Everything was done by tariffs. That really was the thing. So they instituted an income tax. I think it was like what, post World War II, somewhere within the span of World War I to World War II timeframe. They introduced income tax. Income tax had been introduced. The last time it had been introduced before that was during the Civil War in the mid 1860s. Actually, the early 1860s. Right, to pay for this conflict to preserve the Union, and so they abolished it afterwards. Right, there were even fights about it being constitutional when they did that. So us not having an income tax is nothing new, and running everything through tariffs could bring in a hell of a lot of money.
Yes.
So it's there's a lot of ways to do things. I think honestly, the I say simplest, right? But that's kind of loaded because it's not actually simple,
It's
because
loaded.
now you're dealing with human nature kind of crap, right? Once I get into
Yeah.
this, but probably the simplest, not easiest, but simplest way to deal with a lot of money issues and tax issues and things like that, would be for local, county, state, and federal governments to do a better job at not spending their money stupidly.
That's it.
That would be the biggest thing that everybody across the country could do to make things better, is to spend responsibly for your level of government that you're at, whether you're at talking town, city, county, state, and then up to federal. Better, more well thought out, prudent spending and money decisions. It would seriously curtail a lot of the problems. We probably wouldn't have to take in nearly as much tax as we bleed out. But government gets bloated. People get, their everything wrapped around some idea of, I want to make a big impact and I want to have this big community center. Here we are. I'll use my old city, Grand Forks, as an example for this, where it's like they're trying to put in an indoor pool and turf facility, which in of itself is not a bad thing, right?
Right.
That is a good thing for people to have access to be able to utilize, especially in a place like that where you have brutal winters. All right, where people don't get out as much. Well, hey, we've got a place that has Olympic-sized swimming pools, and we have a track in there. Those kinds of things gives more opportunity for people to get out, take care of themselves during the winter, and not be as susceptible to all of the the winter blues and doldrums that you get into, and the depression and things like that, because maintaining good health fights that stuff, right? It prevents that stuff. So it's not like it's inherently something bad. It becomes the execution of that is bad. So, and I've been following this because my friend sits on city council in Grand Forks. So she'll call me up every once in a while and we'll bitch, right? We'll have a bitch session with things. And, she's telling me about the designs and plans for this and how much this stuff's supposed to cost, right? And they're talking like $40 to $70 million to build this facility, to have this Olympic pool that has, basically it's two pools in it where you can have people actually doing competitive swimming meets or practicing for swim meets, and you can still do lessons on the other side, that kind of thing. Indoor track. They want to put a pickleball court in just so that, because so many older folks actually play pickleball and that helps keep them healthy, and again, all well and good, but you're wanting to do something, the design, it's like the whole pool was like encased in like a greenhouse glass kind of structure. And it's like, all right, now we're looking at the cost of building something like that. All right. If I wanted to put a garage door with windows on my house, that door costs exponentially more than just a regular plain door with no windows on it.
Right.
We're talking just for a house and a garage, a garage door on a house. Now you want to do this with a facility? Then let's look at utilities. All right. Because that's not going to insulate nearly as well. So now you're going to have the heat turned up more, which means you're going to be spending money on all of this. You have the maintenance and upkeep of all the glass panes and all the seals and all this, that, and the other thing. When you're inside, we'll just look at aesthetics, right? When you're inside swimming, you can't look out in the winter. Why? Because everything's frosted over. What's the point, right? Build an efficient building that requires less pretty stuff like that. Go with some sort of Usonian Frank Lloyd Wright design where it's, poured concrete and slabs and right angles and straight lines and make it look cool. All right. But it is efficient. Do that instead of being like, I built this beautiful atrium for the city. Look at me. I'm Mayor Boczynski. Like, fuck you, dude.
Right.
Sorry, I demonetized you. But it's like, fuck you, dude. No, spend smartly. It shouldn't cost $70 million to build this. There's another facility in town, I think at the university. It cost them like 20 million, I think it was 26 million to do their facility. If you're doing something of the same size, why is this costing like triple the amount?
Right. Why?
Explain it to me. Like, what are you doing here? Stop getting these grandiose ideas. Find a way to make something very utilitarian. Looks nice. You can do it, right? You can absolutely make something that's utilitarian and function look nice, right? Do that. Save your taxpayers a shit ton of money because, by the way, all of the sales tax that they have that they're paying, right, is going to pay for not only construction but also upkeep of that facility because it's going to be a public facility.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Let's not get into a situation of where you're doing this, but these people get their grandiose ideas and whatever.
This is what we see across the board, though, with government spending. It's that
And that's just the local level that I'm referring, and using
Right.
that as, if it's happening at the local level at dumb levels, you know, without a doubt, it is happening at state level with just as much, obviously adjusted for scale, stupid things going on, just as much, same way at the federal. And, let's put in a roundabout at the edge of a neighborhood going into
Right.
the old section of the city. Yeah, we're getting DOT funds to do half of it, but we still have to use taxpayer money from local to pay for the other half of it at an intersection that doesn't need it. Literally doesn't need it. The volume of traffic, the traffic flow there, just in directions and things like that, does not require a traffic circle.
That's right.
And you go in and put in this useless traffic circle.
By the way, folks, there's the picture of the actual cast while it was curing on my wife, and that is this thing that I was asking you all about earlier. That JP said use some fiberglass on the inside. So this is what she's wearing in that picture, and
See, what you should probably actually do with that, Scotty,
yeah,
is with something like that, what you really want is the inside, and you want to cast from it. So you take
the
that
inside
mold.
on this though, it does not look very good. It's
Yeah.
because of the kind of materials I use.
Mhm. Right.
It's not really. It's not perfect.
Gotcha.
I would have had to dip her in plaster. Or
Well,
plaster.
actually, really, what you should have done was got a bunch of alginate, and then coat her in alginate, and then lay the fiber or the plaster Paris strips over, which would give some backing and strength to the alginate. Pull that out, and then actually create a cast from that negative.
Yes.
And that would have
If
gotten
I
you everything.
had, thought about it. This was done on November 29th, which would have been my daughter was born on the 2nd of December.
Oh wow! So that's like right before she was born.
3 days.
Yeah.
So Rapid Dog, this is a subject we were on earlier today, and I couldn't locate the picture. So now I've got the picture up for this thing. I was looking if anybody knew how to solidify the inside of that thing. Yeah, I wish I had done it with a totally different process and had gotten all the little details by pouring it but I didn't.
Yeah.
And
it happens.
so it's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, there's that.
The
Picture came up. That's why I had done a search and it popped up. So, but yeah, I got to get this thing before it starts to crumble to pieces after 10 years. And yeah, there you go.
There you go.
So sorry to break into your reverie there.
Yeah. No, you're good. I probably need to have somebody come and break them.
That's okay. So, well, we've got about 11 minutes left, and we're done here today. And I got to go right at 11 today, folks. So no latecomers with long things to say.
Professor, that's you.
I'm not pointing fingers at anybody, am I?
In 5, 4, 3, 2.
Yeah. So yeah, because I got to get out of here right at 11 today, despite the interruptions we've had earlier throughout the show. I did not get to doing readings, so let me steer us in a different direction. I might do a reading or two here in the last few minutes. For those of you who joined the show because you wanted to see me do some readings, if you're still here, we'll get a couple cracked off here. Little 1-card readings if we can.
I'll take one. I'll be the first guinea pig out the gate.
I'll do one for you right now, since you're
That way
right.
everybody can see the shock on my face and terror and panic start to develop.
Yes, I'm going to use this deck. This is the Touchstone Tarot. This was done by Cat Black out of New Zealand, and
It's in relation to Jack Black.
no relation.
No,
Unless it's shoestring.
no School of Rock.
Gave me this deck to replace a deck that was stolen on the Queen Mary when I was doing readings there for the Ghost Hunters back in 2009. No, this isn't the deck she gave us. This is the big one we bought. She gave me the little deck.
Okay.
Anyway, let me shuffle up here for you. Let's see what you need to know today, huh? And remember, a tarot reading like this, I always call them, it's a snapshot of the moment. It's not like, this is the rest of your life, unless you die this afternoon, which hopefully this wouldn't foretell that anyway.
Yeah.
But this is a snapshot of where you are. It's reading. I believe that there is something that reads the energy. You can call it God. You can call it your spirit guides, your angels, your whatever, the universe. Somebody's delivering messages, and I have only ever seen in 40 years of reading cards, on the rarest, I can count in 40 years on one hand the number of times where I went, that made absolutely no sense for this person. So it always makes sense, even when it doesn't make sense. I've had people come back to me after events and say, you know that thing that I kind of scoffed about? Well, here's what happened. And so I've seen that many, many times. So here we go. I'm just giving us a one good shuffle for the morning. And then I'm a horrid shuffler. So here we go. And Professor Bauer just popped in on my end. Believe it or not, look who's here.
Oh my goodness.
All right.
Don't you interrupt this. Don't you interrupt this.
If you were here, I'd have you cut the deck. So I'm gonna
let him do his thing.
I heard the call for last call, and I decided that it was time to call in at last call.
There you go.
Scotty, let's do an interrogation on your cards. Let me ask you a question.
Your time will be limited today.
Yeah, I'll ask you the question, and you pull the cards.
There you go.
Are you ready?
Well, here, I've already got one I've shuffled up for JP.
Okay.
So here's what you got, JP. You got the Queen of Wands. Now, the Queen cards, these royal face cards, they're generally cards that refer to a specific male or female in your sphere of influence, or it's you. It's the characteristics of you that's being represented by this card. The Queen of Wands. Wands is the suit of your emotion. This is just the technical side behind it. The suit of your emotions. It's the things you invest yourself in. It's the way that you want to be able to see yourself doing things. All right.
Right.
So this is a card that's and by the way, the red that she uses in the wands, and every one of the wand cards suit, is supposed to represent fire. It's the zeal of youthful vigor and intensity and creativity and all those things. So right away, that's what you see just on the surface of the card. This could be a woman in your sphere of influence that has this influence on you. It could be you with these things coming out. And this is saying that as a virtue, one of your own personal virtues, you've got a little patience.
I've got a little patience.
You've got patience. It's one of your virtues. It's helped you create these kind of comfortable living situations you're in, situations with other people. You've made smart decisions. You think your decisions through. You have the ability to think soundly, and you kind of shape your future with that. And this is a card that says somebody who is close to you in your inner circle. This represents a mom, a grandma, an aunt, a good friend, a boss, somebody like this in the female sense, it's going to give you helpful advice. And it's all, now that seems very general, but we're only looking at one card. We're not looking at all the other things that would play off of this if we had done a whole spread. The ally might be a woman, but no matter their identity, this is the idea that you, if it's not you, show the gratitude you need to, you follow the advice of this influence, you're going to achieve some success, or it's going to be you telling yourself, these are the things I need to do. And if I took one more card off the top, it's another queen. And by the way, both of these were in reverse when I pulled them up. I don't read strict reversals on cards, but in the reverse, it's kind of got not really the opposite of that meaning, but it's somebody's advice that you need to pay attention to. And if you don't, there could be some devastating outcomes. Then you've got the Queen of Coins, which came up as a secondary card. I just drew right off the top. I'm using that as a way to modify this particular card. And coins, of course, is the pentacles. And the pentacles have to do with your material well-being, the way you move forward in life with the decisions that affect your finances. And this is just saying a female influence is going to give you very practical advice on your finances, on your job, help you create the abundance that you want to have. This is all tarot language. And so it's practical, organized, reliable, multitasker in the good sense. This is somebody who brings wealth. Now, in the reverse, as it came up, if I were to read a strict reversal, I believe all cards have their inherent good and bad qualities. Strict reversal, it would be that if you don't listen to this, it's going to affect you adversely. You've got to pay attention to the advice. And if I were to flip one more card, guess what we got? Death. Oh, you're going to die now. Okay. So I guess this all counts now. No, death just means you're transitioning from one thing to another. Going from one thing, something's going to end, and something new is going to take its place. It's an open door. Any of that make any sense?
Kind
No.
of. Some of it.
Kind of is a no.
There are some things that definitely hit in terms of the patience aspect of things with the Queen of Wands and whatnot. I am sure my mom will probably, who is very much kind of represented in both of those first cards.
Sure.
I am sure will come at me with some sort of either financial or real estate type advice kind of thing, because that's what she does.
There you go. I'm already moving on from you.
Yeah.
I'm moving into Professor Bauer.
Right.
All I did was, just for time, sorry, let me know how that plays out in its practical way. I've got the deck not reshuffled, but I cut it on your behalf. I'm going to pull a card off. You want me to just pull a card off the top for you?
Well, I was going to ask you to do a 3-card pull. Past,
okay.
present, past, present, and future.
We got 50 seconds left. Let's see what we can do.
So the question is, will the results of the election be obvious before the close of the polls?
Oh. Well, that's a good question. I'm going to cut the deck for that one again. Let's see what we get. As a quick response to that, we got the Tower. What's the Tower card mean?
That's the big change.
Yeah. It means everything you have built to this point is gone, and there's something new to replace it.
So that's the past.
Situation.
Yeah.
I've got the Eight of Wands is the next card. This is upward mobility, meaning whatever's taking place with the change in the Tower, it's moving you in an upward position to get you where you want to be, to get you to a better place.
Mental energy
card.
Yes.
And then the third card on that is the World. The world is your oyster. It means you've got everything in the palm of your hand that you've wanted to get you to where you want to be. It's it's also a card that says it's the teacher that says, look at how this was done. This is going to teach you something for the good. People are going to look and say, might not even know who they are. They're going to look and say, look how that was done. That's the way this is done. And that's what we learn from it, and so on. So what do you got? Once again, in review, random for the election on Tuesday. Are we going to know what's going on before the end of the day? There's going to be cataclysmic change. There is going to be change that moves us in an upward mobility, and the world is going to notice and see it, and the world is going to be our oyster, so to speak.
I rest my case. I rest my case of the comments that I made in the chat. That just perfectly confirmed everything that I've said.
There you go.
I
and
think
you know what?
The cataclysmic tower change is going to be in the minds of those that don't want a change. They want to maintain the status quo, and it's going to be so obvious. I'm calling it too obvious to obfuscate. And that's why I think that it's going to be clear before the polls close. And this will be all the pundits. This isn't the count or any of this. This is all the observational freaks that are out there doing whatever they're doing, including me and all of us. But I think that this is basically boiled down to a race between the boys and the girls. You have an estrogen-based carbon units that are driving the narrative on the left. And you have testosterone-based carbon units driving all of the energy on the right. And the problem is that the folks on the left, they've shot their wad. They've had their 4 years. They've proven themselves completely incompetent, inept, and let's just call it what it is. It's a mental illness of idiocy that has permeated that entire groupthink over there. And it's been primarily driven by estrogen-based units who have earned the moniker of batshit crazy across the board. So that sea change, that tower moment is going to happen in their minds. It's also going to happen in the minds of the right, because they're going to finally go, we finally got rid of this nonsense.
See, now I usually don't ask questions like that of the Tarot. I try to stay away from them.
But it was perfect.
But this seems to be very pointed in its which surprises even me. So
well, and it's just another example of the power of divination, right?
Yes.
So the cards you interpret. The cards were shuffled and interpreted based on what I asked and the energy behind it.
Yes.
So it came out with exactly what I have been saying, which is, and you had no idea what I was going to ask. You didn't shuffle the cards and pick accordingly. So this, to me, is a real-time demonstration of the power of divination and the energy of the cosmos that we tap into because of it's our nature. And you just use, we could have done this with astrological charts or even divining rods or scrying.
We could have.
You're just using the tool of the tarot in order to do that. And it exactly called out what I have been calling out. I did a Geezer Geeks last night, and we went on about the same thing. This is going to be too obvious to obfuscate. It's going to be a psychological shift in the normie world, because a lot of what they're struggling with right now is the conflict of what they have been told and what they think versus what they're seeing and hearing with their own eyes.
Now let's see if he can match the crescendo of music and then the play out. Let's see if he can.
Right.
So I really think what we're seeing is that complete collapse of a conscious narrative that has been full of crap.
I think you're absolutely right, and this is something I have attested to myself, saying I hope this is what we see, and that's a bit confirming. Let's see where it goes.
Well, thank you for allowing me to drop that in there and pull on the tarot and proving. And here's the thing, right? We will get confirmation in a couple of days.
Yes,
as to how accurate that was.
Let's see what happens Tuesday night, folks. Go out and vote.
Bring it on.
Vote your conscience, but more so than your conscience, vote what your brain tells you is the right thing to do.
Thanks for the
Guys, we gotta get out of here.
soundtrack there, JP.
Hey, yeah. So, guys, thanks for being here. I'm going to let you guys go.
right.
And no, I'm not even going to do all that. We're just going to sign up. So, folks, thanks for being here. Be here Monday, Wednesday, Friday this week for the Intrepid radio program, 9 p.m. Central Standard Time, as usual. And we'll get it on, at least politically, and stuff it. So,
Life is about to change in the most profound and magnificent way we've ever seen in our lifetimes. Grab a seat, grab some popcorn, your favorite adult beverage, and strap in. It's going to be fun.
And vote early and vote often.
That's good. Everybody live long and prosper. We'll see you tomorrow night.